Up. Looks like it's waking up. And good morning, YouTube. Let's send a little signal out to Facebook and Instagram to wake them up. All right. Looks like we are up and rolling. Yep, we are. All right. And this is second update for CROM Anthology #1 pre-ordering. Sent out a second reminder email with the link and the steep discount code. The email basically says, come the weekend, it'll be closing down the discount code and the pre-order page on CromBarbarian.com will be going live. We will see closer to Friday, which I'll be doing another update because we're just waiting on the final proof. And once I get that and I can sit with that for a day, make sure everything is double okay, we'll be off and running. So those first pre-orders put in will be, I will sit down and put those orders in, so they'll be going out before I even start taking orders for the CROM Anthology #1 in the wild. So I just want to thank everybody who has pre-ordered. It's a great help to see people taking advantage of the discount code, but also wanting to be there before anybody else, and that means a lot to me. I'm looking in my the Riverside, and I'm looking at how these two pretty cool. So anyway, just being a little nerd here. Today I'm just going to spend some time giving another run through. I'm not spoiling a lot right now of what's in here. This is 256 pages, black and white, sword and sorcery goodness. Gosh, I gotta make an official count. Well, here's the official count. Table of contents. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 comic book stories, which is super exciting. A lot of this is original material. Today I'm just going to go through Crom Daring. We also have Crom and the Serpent's Lair by John Molina. Gardner Fox, Bob Powell and I worked on Lala and the Time Machine. Crom the Heart with Jason Schoonover. Spawn of Af Gorkin, Rick Frayne, Zoe Angeli, and Kurt Rugal, me. Nice long 30 pages illustrated. Crom of Clarn, based off of some Gardner Fox pulp goodness. Dexter Jones, God Crom, nice two-pager funny to break it up. Steven Sonnefeld and myself inking. Crom Jr., another little break up there. An amazing adaptation of one of Lord Dunsany's Little Tales by Dean Kotz. Crom the Courageous, Part 1, 11 pages, drawn sword, written by Ron Parsons, Dave Liciani, Rogan of the North, Crom and the Serpent's Altar, Adam Bennett, Crom and Druvanis, which is art by Ken Landgraf and written by me, and then a teaser for Arik Khan, which is a Rick Reyes. I also have another teaser for the Arabian Nights by Gillian Chesney. This is a public domain 1943 Sinbad segment. And then this, of course, is a 3 comic book series done in the late 70s, and working with the amazing Adam Lemna on putting them together, and also giving an additional story. So continuing Frank Ray's. Man, I am tongue-tied this morning. This is my Friday too, by the way. So my wife has Wednesday, Thursday off from the real job. So Tuesdays are my Fridays. Fridays are my Mondays. And so I'm at the end of my week and looking forward to 2 days off. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, just some amazing contributions. Already getting contributions and talking with people about contributing to CROM Anthology #2. I can't express it enough. If you want to keep in contact with me properly, cromthebarbarian.com is where it's at. My email is kurt@cromthebarbarian.com. I know it's easy to use social media. I know it's easy to instant message, and I know everybody's doing it. But I don't keep on top of it as much as probably I should. And so things can fall by the wayside and crack. And I just don't want anybody feeling like I'm neglecting them or ignoring them or I don't like them. It's not that. If you send me an email, I check my spam folder every day on Crom at kurt@cromthebarbarian.com, as well as just the email multiple times during the day, which is driving my business. So, please, it's all that this project is about, is building a community, keeping some good open lines of communication, really getting people off the ground creatively. And man, I'm seeing stuff already out there that's just, blowing my mind. One of the things too in pre-ordering, if you haven't already gotten copies, Brutal Blade of CROM, everybody. Jason Barrow has put together an amazing crew. And still pushing forward. There's going to be a little hiatus where Blood Maidens is going to be in between issue #3 and #4 of Brutal Blade. I'm actually going to be contributing to this. I'm working on slowly and steadily putting something together, which is an old thing I had years ago that I've always been wanting to bring back, and obviously bring into CROM Anthology. But I thought it'd be really cool to have the first taste for my Blood Maiden story, my character, to be in Blood Maiden. So yeah, that's going to be really wild. So we have issue 1, 2, and 3. So you can pick up all 3 of them if you don't have them. 56 pages, black and white, and once again, amazing creative contributions. These are never too far from me. Inspiration, motivation. One of the things I want to talk today about, and as I always talk about and I keep talking about, is I love the fact that this character CROM is in public domain. It is just fun to see other people's take on it. Everything from the sword skull biter is what I refer to, but skull cracker seems to be a lot more popular. And this is because in Gardner Fox's first CROM the Barbarian 10-pager in 1950, he starts out calling it skull cracker, and then 2 or 3 pages down he refers to it as skull biter. I like the skull biter better. Cracker sounds too much like something you dip in soup. No. But it's just like I said, some amazing stuff. And also Jim Gullett. And by the way, I have restocked the Brutal Blades, and I have restocked CROM collection, but they're selling in the pre-ordering. So I just need everybody to know that once my stock is out for this going live with CROM Anthology #1, pushing it out into the wild. I won't be restocking during that. I'll be restocking at a later date. So, one of my favorite versions of CROM was immediately when I came across Jim Gullett's CROM the Barbarian that he did for Lucky Comics. Drive-through, you can get a hold of them, and the head of that is Michael Helmner, and just really great short stories. A lot of public domain, obviously, he picked up and has moved on there. This is 2018. I think this is a little bit earlier, but just really, I just love the fact that Jim put this together, to have them all in one place and in print, because the Lucky Comics does a majority of their publishing just digitally through drive-through comics. And I also know for a fact Jim is working on some follow-up material, CROM the Barbarian, that will be released in the next CROM Anthology. Other than that, in addition to that, Scoundrel's Dread, Drawn Sword was one of the first that I reached out to. He was actually the second, to be honest with you. The first person I reached out to was David Molina, whose brother is John Molina, which is pretty darn cool. Amazing a talent. The second individual who I had found through his website is Drawn Sword in New Zealand. Really just fell in love and enamored with his pencil approach that basically comes off as inking, to my eyes. Reached out to him. You want to play with CROM? Get a cover, for my CROM collection, and he said yes. So love it. He put together last year this Scoundrel's Dread, a dark concept art book, 36 pages, oversized. This is like, you can see here. You can see here's a real comic by Jeff Lafferty, Berserkernaut. So you can see it's about an extra thing. I think this is A4 or 3. I always forget. I got to train my brain to remember which I love this format, and I want to play with something in the next couple of months, reprinting some of my material in this larger format, just to kind of see and feel how it is. But I have copies. This was a limited run, 100 copies. I got 20. We did a pre-order campaign to get some over here. We got 25 of them over here. So 100 signed by Drawn Sword, numbered by him. Come on. And he's working on Karnak, one of his characters. He's shown me some stuff, and it's pretty damn exciting, and it's based off, this is the world, so you can imagine like the complete bizarro things that are going to take place in there. But as I said, like, Drawn Sword has this approach to penciling that I'm so jealous of, because it just reads right into inking, and it's very inspiring, motivating. And of course, I have this book very close to me because I just can't get enough of this. Just amazing, man. Just amazing. So I have copies available, and I just teased out, and I'll tease again. One of my favorites out there, Jeff Lafferty. We had an interview, Jake and I, with him on Turbo. It's great. And I still am a big follower of his art cast, comic art cast, back in the day. Just an amazing talent, Same thing goes with his work. Very inspiration, very motivating, which is really, it's so cool about comics. And I'm going to drag this back over to me and CROM Anthology. We, I think in the way of collecting comics or wanting comics in our lives, there's this, I have this theory that pretty much 9 out of 10 people that are collecting comics want to, if not, are already participating in the production of comics, writing, reviewing, inking, publishing, distributing. It's very awesome. It really is. I think as an art form, it has a fundamental stabling feeling. That it creates a stability for comics to not go anywhere. And one of those things is like having comics that you really enjoy near you and inspiring you to make comics. So, and the approach, and even being like, how did he do this? What are the materials? And by the way, you can go to Jeff Lafferty on YouTube and watch hours of him working. It's like a school. You can go to school and see exactly how he's going about this. And it's, I just think it's amazing. If you want to make a comic and you find yourself procrastinating, complaining you don't have this, or you need one of these, or they just shut the hell up and just get some piece of paper and pencil together and make a zine. You know what I mean? The old 8.5 by 11 fold 3 pages together. Now it's what, 3 times 4 is a 12 pager, and start on the cover, start write out the character's name and and then keep those comics that have always just kept you motivated by your side, and pull from them, use them as resources. And like I said, like with Jeff Lafferty, you can see hours of him drawing at the table and talking about it. So it's like a school, but having all this material nearby, I think is just an amazing thing. And as this CROM universe is growing, that's what fundamentally my rationale for putting together 256 pages of CROM and CROM-centric material is literally having one place to go near you, to turn the page. Oh man, how did Dexter Jones do that? Maybe I should email him, or how you could find out in the interviews that I had with Dexter Jones in past CROM updates, which is, once again, one of the reasons I'm doing the CROM updates and the interviews, which will be starting up again very soon after CROM Anthology is in the wild. But another really excellent example is Dexter Jones and his the God CROM. Story-wise, amazing detail, amazing amount of detail. Like I said, I go back. Dexter and I got together, I think, like 3 times for interviews, and just catching up and the process and everything. And he's very open about sharing it, and it's just great. It just is. It's great. So yeah, these are all there. You could also get, which is available in the store, a copy of my 140 pages, which are 4 stories that I put together, CROM as a youth, and then the original 4 stories, Gardner Fox, John Glinta, and the last one was with Jack Katz, which is an actual revamping of a Zangar 1971 Zangar. I just turned his hair blonde and changed out his name Zangar to CROM, because the damn thing reads like a Sword and Sorcery masterpiece by the man Fox himself. And then, I've gone on in the last update for CROM Anthology, and I'm going to keep going on where there's these prose stories, which I know, reading can take a lot of energy out of us, even if you, and especially if you're dyslexic like I am. I find so many artists are, and you know, but the idea I have in illustrating is basically if you followed each page picture to picture, you're gonna have a real kind of like decent idea. And if there's something like, well, what's going on? That's like, oh, I guess a ship's burning. And you just come up here and just catch this passage a little bit, and then it might be inspirational enough to get you writing something else. Of course, you know, here's a couple of amazing artists from there. So one last thing, or two last things. You know, I'm one half of the Turbo Pit Fighter with Jake Jacobs. That's a YouTube channel. Turbo Pit Fighter, making of. So we get together at 10 a.m. every Sunday and work. Right now we're working 3 hours every Sunday straight, live, having a great time with everybody in the comments chat panel on YouTube and stuff. So some great things going on there. As a matter of fact, let me check over here. No, not a lot going on. And then so you can get copies of Turbo Teaser #2, second printing. It's a Maxim printing. It's an open printing too. So as I run out, I'll just keep printing them until we get Turbo Pit Fighter issue #1 completed, which we're shooting for next year. And then last but not least, I have to absolutely thank the 11 Crommunity members that bought a copy of the mock-up. You know, I had this idea, why not put it? It can't hurt to offer it if nobody takes it. It's no skin off my back because of the print on demand with Lulu. You know, and 12 people. I wanted to try to get 10 of them out there. Now there's 11 plus 2 copies that I have that are in the wild. So there's 13 of these out here in the wild, and Lord only knows how much they're going to be worth in 5 to 10 years. So sorry about that if you didn't get a copy. But you know, just really giving this like art like process. Like these are just my skeletal 80% blackline inks that I do first, and then of course I do my gray washing, and then I finish it off with all the great black and white texture, tone and texture stuff. But you know, it's pretty awesome. I just have to say, at this point, with 11 people getting a hold of the mock-up, dozen or so right now are have done the taken advantage of the steep discount and have done their pre-order. So I'm bowled over. So it's just going to be a nice ride till the end of this month, because I think the last day of the In the Wild, well, the campaign that I'll be running, which is Can CROM Sell 100 copies without Kickstarter. And I'll be talking about my feelings towards why I don't do Kickstarter. I don't believe I ever will do a Kickstarter. Yeah, this is just, you know, how things are and going on. But today, I just want to take a little bit of time and talk about art. I'm in a very business-minded mode right now. I mean, all I'm doing is spending time building media clips, you know, cutting them up, and you know, I got the web pages, and you got to post on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and blah, 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 blah. But art's right always near, right? So, and I don't want to, you know, lose any momentum I have, because I've got a lot of really good stuff to continue on. Like Barbarian has a second story I'm going to be working on. But yeah, I've mentioned this before. This is my art. This is just something that gets me to finishing my art. So the first story in the CROM Anthology is Barbarian. I just want to situate this and talk about my process in a bit more detail than I have in the past. I am fine arts trained. Well, I went to art school, Maryland Institute College of Art in 1988, graduated in 92. All I knew and thought of in approaching a career in the arts, as it was so popularly held, was illustration. And I live in what's called Howard Pyle Wyeth country. So N.C. Wyeth, Andrew Wyeth, Jamie Wyeth, Howard Pyle, who is the godfather, grandfather of American illustration. His student, N.C. Wyeth, went on to really level up the game and everything. There's actually another guy from that time period I absolutely adore, is Frank Schoonover, who Jason, I think, is still trying to figure out the relationship in that family connection. But Frank Schoonover is literally one of my favorite golden age illustrators. I'm always heading towards going to the Brandywine Art Museum, and just sitting and gawking, at that work. The thing about it is, while I was in school, I ended up getting thrown out of illustration and got myself into the painting department, because the Maryland Institute, for me, really turned me into like an art snob. I mean, John Connolly was the art history teacher, and art history started at like 7:30 in the morning, which I think is genius. Not for overindulgent college kids, especially freshmen. But you had to get your ass to class. You were paying for these things, so there was no sleeping in or anything. And it was at a theater, and he would use a projector to project these masterpieces like Wrath of the Medusa, Oath of the Horace, with by Jean-Louis David. Just amazing works of art, all the way up into modern art, like Guernica by Picasso. So I became obsessed with the process of making art. But as I was finding towards the end of my college career, I did want to go back into being an illustrator, most specifically a comic book artist. And as a matter of fact, my senior project for graduation is a comic book. And I still have copies, and I'm going to share that a little later down the road, probably in January, and even offer these comics for sale, which also, by the way, was an anthology. The thing I started really falling in love with in my professional career in publishing was the printing process. So before there was laser printing, you had what's called offset printing. So you were dealing with colors and black plate, and then those were shot, and then you would, if you were working in color, things were going. But I never worked in color. I worked for a paintball magazine through the mid 90s, 3.5 years. Extreme Paintball, I think is what it was called. And I was the art director. Basically, I was the guy that put the damn thing together every month, and it was a pretty wild ride. Black and white magazine. Learned everything that I use now in the way of publishing, printing. So if you take a look at the first page here, it's 13 by 19, and I'm running it just like a comic book, and I'm doing my thing, which is, the tonality and texture. This is color pencil, some white paint, black brush pens, splattering and stuff. It's oversized. It gets shot down, which I love. So you work larger, and then when it shrinks down, it tightens things up. But this time around, I converted my PDF file that you send to the printer, Lulu, to black. That was it. It's just black. RGB or CMYK, which is, CMYK was very popular. RGB, I think, is technically the term or the technology that they're using in order to print, these one-off print-on-demand from laser, these big laser printers, right? Which I don't know much about and should get more information on it. But the distressed look of having your, let's say, well rendered, something that's overly rendered and detailed, forced down to a black plate, which then uses the white of the paper, which I don't use white paper. I use a cream color paper, so it might be hard to see. So it's not very stark, but the isolation of the white areas, are popping forward. And I have to say very well, in that. But the distressed look is what I'm going for. So the old Savage Sword of Conan magazines, and pulp in general, from the beginning on through, and comic books until I think you get to late 80s, maybe not even, maybe it is Image that really does makes the comic book slick, because you have all this computer coloring, and then digital coloring, and then the printing is going towards this, digital offset. So you're able basically to get things and see it on a computer screen, and then what you pretty much see on the computer screen, other than plain color levels, with like oversaturation or fluorescent colors, it basically goes out. You know what I mean? Like there might be a little tweaking there at the printer, where you got to make sure the blues aren't too red or the blues aren't too cold, or for whatever the artist's intention was. But before then, and everything I was reading was from the 70s and the early to mid 80s, was offset and black and white. Pretty much everything I bought was black and white. And so there's always this distressed anomalies, things are shifted, and I love that. I love that as a part of the experience. I like the heavy lifting you have to do as a reader, like kind of discerning things and like finding text and just, living inside of. This next page, I think, is a really good example of how it's from my mind to my art being printed has done justice this round. So now if you look how dark, it's amazing, because this is like, my eye reads this is at like a high registration of gray, 85%, and even the whites seem a little muted, they're not holding their own. Here, that's exactly what's happening. The whites are holding their own from the page, but all of my rendering is, doing its job in containing areas and spaces. Even that black sun, you can still see the lines running, and then I just made this black sun for whatever decision or reason I did. But just really, really, really worked. The gray wash, graphite wash, very light here, there's a splattering of white gouache, really comes out nice. It's this faux duotone kind of feel and everything. But I am just over the moon, as they used to say, in how my work is reacting to this print on demand. And I, so far, other than some misregistration in the print, this artist proof, the technical support I got from Lulu, and me spending an entire day relaying out 256 pages, I am going to be so surprised if this final book isn't, if not close to perfect, in the curation, in my mindset for not only the individual's art set in here, but the flow. Because I really want this to read, as I was saying earlier, to motivate others to contribute to CROM Daring. You know, I'm just going to go over here to this pull quote. There's a pull quote I put in here. So, you know, I this might look like a lot of reading, but it's just really giving you an update, because the last, so CROM 2024 collection, I started with this explanation experimentation, and that's just my forwarding and prepping somebody for what they're getting involved in. And you know, artsy, like an art snobbish way, I kind of want to just lead you into a space, mind space, of what how I'm going about accomplishing what it is that I want to see in print. And by the way, one of my goals is to sell all of my comic book collection down to only having these anthologies that I'll be putting together for the rest of my life. And I'm going to talk more about that off and on as it goes. Is this sort of idea of like not becoming so attached to my comic book collection of other people's work, but even trying to get that work into these anthologies. And not only CROM Anthology, but Jake and I over at Turbo are working on a Doom magazine anthology, and it's a lot of similar thinking there. In other words, Jake is an amazing writer on top of penciler and character designing for Turbo's world, but you know, has put out a couple of these scripts. We got Ken Landgraf and Alex Turbin to provide art, and then Jake and I have, you know, leveled the art into a really nice curated consistency. It's just not like accepting art and just slapping it in there and then sending it out there. It's like really putting the curation editing goggles on and getting that down. So and the experimentation, you know, I think is also a very important thing that has to be happening, and not only for me but for others. But the pull quote of the pull quotes I have here is: the mission isn't to build a brand, it's to build a community, a living forge where artists and readers keep the fire of sword and sorcery alive. That's a real banner waving moment here. And as you're getting into 250 pages here, you know, I'm really hoping not like one area per se stops you, but as you're moving, like, oh, here's something really fun. So accidents are an amazing way to experiment. And accidents don't have to be like mistake driven. They can just be something that kind of like, you know, when I was doing the layout, each one of these stories was its own PDF. So I was kind of dropping them in different ways to Adobe Acrobat. And this public domain Sinbad story, which is the Arabian Nights, that was illustrated by Lillian Chesney, which will be coming out later. It was supposed to come out now, but it'll be out very, very soon, if not by the end of the year. And I'm going to do a bigger push probably in January for it, with some other, like I said, some other materials that I'll have available for people. Sinbad the Sailor, Arabian Nights, you know, Viking sagas, dramatic fairy tales. These are all very core driven, inspiration and motivation to make sword and sorcery stories. They're That's where it all comes out from. For all these things come. So one of the booktubers I watch is Grammaticus Books, and he did a really good, sweet, short explanation on Robert E. Howard's The Frost Giant's Daughter. And the spoiler is, I'll spoil it up, is he's using the sirens. Robert E. Howard's using the sirens from the Iliad, so the Odyssey, which is Odysseus trying to get back to Penelope, and how these sirens as magical creatures, lured men to the rocks and dashed them and stranded them and starved and killed them and all that kind of horror. So Robert E. Howard was very, very much connected to, classic literature. So the arbitrary mistake, if you will, that happened was this ended up butting directly with Jason Schoonover and I's CROM Anthology, which is a modern fairy tale that Jason brought to me as an idea in collaboration, and we went to town on it. And this is just really what it's. This, as an example, is what the Crommunity, CROMthebarbarian.com, and Anthology is all about. This is old stuff that still has way more value in my feeling of anything coming out nowadays. I mean, this stuff I could live with the rest of my life, to stuff that is being worked out. Like, that's the thing that this story is about. It's being worked out. It's not done and that's it. Because there's a follow-up to this that Jason and I will most definitely at some point in our schedules be able to get to. But I had tears in my eyes when this experimentation mistake happened, and is in the flow of this CROM Anthology #1, because, as I said, this is really a great example of how things flow, and we'll look forward to. Oh, look at this! I just turned to Jason, Jason Schoonover, and I flipped this, this was originally over here, but because I was reprinting it, I wanted it over here, and then have this kind of like funny thing. So, it's some great stuff in here. There's just free scripts. We're going to be talking more and more about these. We have somebody out there right now who got a hold of Steven Sonnefeld's CROM and the Wheel of Time script, and he is working on that right now. I think it's Nerd Artist Matt on Instagram. And I'm getting constant updates from him, and it's looking pretty awesome. I mean, the inspiration that he's putting into the work is just terrific. And of course, this I'm going to be talking about a lot more, and we're going to be seeing more from Rick and hopefully Zoe as a model for Ithra, the goddess character that is patroned by my version of CROM and everything. But I am talked out. And I really do like to keep these about 45 minutes and let you guys get back to hopefully being stimulated and motivated to get your CROM or your CROM-centric sword and sorcery story off the ground, or keep it moving. Also, Kurt@CROMthebarbarian.com, my email. Please send me stuff. Send me what you're working on. If you'd like some feedback, that is always going to be there for the giving from me. I love giving feedback. Hoping to give some direction, and go from there. But also moving forward, January I will be announcing some very stern dates on submission process for anthology number 2. And obviously based on the success of the release Into the Wild CROM Anthology number 1, motivations in moving forward as I take the introspective month of December to look into 2026. So I will be back this Friday right around the same time, like 10-11 o'clock, sharing more. I will have most definitely the final proof copy will be in the mail moving towards me. So I am anticipating, fingers crossed, Monday of next week, we will be in the wild. So please, CromTheBarbarian.com. If you're not on the mailing list, I'm going to send one more email out through the mailing list. I want to thank the 2 people who did get on board since Saturday. So they now have the secret link to the pre-order page and the steep discount code. And that will all be coming to a close this weekend, which will be the 22nd, 23rd, around there. And that 24th it's looking good to be the release date. And then I'll spend the rest of the month selling 100 copies of CROM without Kickstarter. And I'll be talking about that and on Friday, and also hoping to remember to talk about all I want to be when I grow up as an artist is an inker of other people's comics. So other than that, thank you everybody for spending time joining me here. If you're on YouTube and you haven't been over to CromTheBarbarian.com and joined up, please do it. And of course, I have a blog podcast feed, and every episode it's got a nice breakdown by page. You also have a live link to the videos, but you get a good idea of what updates have been like and everything. And as I said, with Dexter Jones, Jason Schoonover, Drawn Sword, John Molina, Ron Parsons, I've done a lot of interviews with some just enthusiastic, creative pioneers in the world of CROM the Barbarian. Public domain character. Get out there and have some sword and sorcery fun. Have a great one. See you on Friday. Pre-order. Don't forget the pre-order.